in for such a treat. I think you probably read what I wrote about Jan today, but I'm just going to reiterate that Jan has been stuck to the hip. We have been stuck to each other's hips for quite a long time now, and we've been through quite a few experiences which defy actually explanation. But through it all, we have grown a lot independently and together. And she's my gal that I reach out to most consistently when I need guidance myself, as we all do. I mean, sometimes I get readings about things that are confusing, and I need more clarity. And what's great about the dowsing rods is it gives a clear answer. However, it doesn't fill the story out. And Jan, not only because of her incredible brilliance, her mental brilliance, but just the way that she perceives the world, she can tell a story beautifully. And so she reaches into the I Ching, or she reaches into the astrology, as you'll hear tonight, and out comes a story that completely opens my field to understanding the bigger picture of the situation. It's incredible. And she has worked so hard. I have watched her learn this and learn that and go to this workshop and that workshop and accumulate all these abilities and all these modalities. And and now she's a one-woman band. I'll tell you that. You could go to her for anything and she will pull up her Mary Poppins bag and all kinds of things will come out. So plus she's just really fun to be with. And so without further ado, and I want to say hi to everybody. Oh, there's Barbara. And let's see, somebody else just popped in. Sally, hi. Colleen. If I haven't mentioned you, Mary Pat, pardon me, but I just want us to get going here and have Jan come on and unmute herself.
Hi, everybody.
And there she is.
Wow, what a treat. What a treat.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you for that beautiful
fun.
Introduction. So much fun. My favorite thing in the world. Yeah.
So what I want to do is have everybody have a chance to get to know you better. And I thought we would use the topic of perseverance, which is our watchword for the month, and come through that window into your life and just have you talk a little bit about how you've used perseverance, what perseverance actually means to you. And of course, not just on the physical, but on all levels. So have at it, let us in to who Jan Seward is.
Well, thank you, everybody. And it's hard to talk about myself, as probably with any of us. I really, believe it or not, am shy regarding my own self. But when Hope and I were getting ready for this talk, and she was, as we can all be for each other, this beautiful mirror. Yeah, suddenly I realized that is really one of my gifts, is that I hang in there. I really do. Not only do I hang in there, but I go farther than just hanging in there. I really, when I'm presented with a challenge that's really big, kind of like that elephant. How do you eat an elephant, if you have to eat an elephant, one bite at a time? And it's just been a gift in my wiring this time around to have kind of that ability to say, okay, I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. I'm really, this is really kind of a big deal. And if I want to give up or I want to run away, fight, flight, or freeze, there is something inside of me that, and tonight we're going to talk about astrologically what that might be, where you can find that. And I have a lot of it, that ability to kind of keep going, to persevere, and to not only persevere, but to say, what's the pearl? What's the gift? What's the purpose? Why this? Why now? As opposed to why me, which I have, trust me, also spent plenty of time in, but then going to that sense of saying, okay, and I, hope you said I could do some shtick tonight. I have some favorites. One of them is, and you're a playwright, so you know this, and I think it was Chekhov who said, if in a play in the first act, you're gonna put a gun on the fireplace or a rifle hanging over the mantle, by the third act, it better go off.
Exactly.
So kind of the way that I approach challenges is to say, okay, if there's this rifle hanging over the fireplace, what's it there for? There's a reason, there's a utility, and okay, let's use it. So I also happen to be a sun in Aries. I can use a lot of martial metaphors. So forgive me. Yeah.
Well, I think you've had some life challenges that are extraordinary. And I don't want to share them for you, but if you wanted to share any, just to give a sense of, I mean, look, you're an incredible psychologist. And I think anybody who has had tremendous life challenges, that's going to, if they happen to be in the healing arts in some way, it's going to benefit their practice, right? And you've had more than your fair share, in my humble opinion.
Thank you.
And I see it as enriching your practice completely. And I especially in the last few years, there's to me, my observation is a coalescence of all of that. So maybe you can share some of your challenges.
Yes, I will. I mean, and coming to the Berkshires was really a healing experience, a healing opportunity, but also a refuge from some real tragedy in my life, where I lost the person in my life who was my closest partner, my mate. We were really on a journey in life together, and he died. And that was really a catastrophic event in my life. And coming here after that, I was really very shattered, very fragmented. And this whole time post that has been a finding of myself and a remembering of myself. And so, and thank you. I see a lovely comment in the chat. Thank you. Yeah, it was really awful. And those of you who have known me here in the Berkshires have known me on this journey of healing. And it wasn't until this shattering experience that I began to encounter metaphysics. I was a psychologist. I was always outside the box. I've always, done holistic medicine, and, I've not ever been conventional in my work, but I had not really understood the gifts of this conscious universe that we inhabit until I had that tremendous loss. And get back to this idea of perseverance, and truly what didn't kill me, and there were moments where it would have been easy, what didn't kill me really alchemically forged me. And those of you who have known me have seen that forging. And it's been a 25-year process. And I will say it has only been, and then, so that started it, 25 years ago when I lost my spouse. But then in the past, 6 or 7 years, and really, I promise you guys, I'm not given to hyperbole. I'm not given to hyperbole, to exaggeration. But I will say that, as an astrologer told me, most people won't experience one of the transits astrologically that I have encountered these last 5 years, let alone several all at once. I've always been an overachiever, always done 3 programs where most people do 1. So I did the same thing with these transits, these life-altering, again, alchemical transits. And that process has really finally, again, forged a whole new kind of comprehension of the gifts of this conscious universe. And if you can get there, as all of us are in that process. I know so many who are here tonight have also gone through these kinds of events or are in this process even now, this forging. Hope you and I went through it, my goodness, and channeling all those years ago. And right, if we can get through it and understand it and be open to the gifts, then it's just incredible and magical. And that's grace. That's where grace comes in. So
I thank you for sharing that, and I think that one of the blessings, and I think you're basically saying this, is that when we are hit with a particularly difficult 3D situation, to have the resource of the metaphysical helps so much in the perspective, and it helps to see why we're going through this transit, and what is the lesson. As you said, why is that gun on the wall? What, because we could walk many paths, right? You could have walked many paths, many choices within all of those, but having a link to a higher purpose, a higher reason, points you on a particular path through, and particular lessons learned. So I mean, I have seen that in you. I have gone to you for that kind of thing. You have come to me for that kind of thing. It goes back and forth because we need this mirror, as you were saying. So excuse me, I'm still getting over the COVID. So let's talk a little bit about your metaphysical tools. And
sure.
maybe we should start with I Ching, because that sort of brought you along into the other things. So you want to start with that?
Yes. So first of all, there's that expression, if you have the eyes to see, or if you have the ears to hear. And so again, I believe all of us here have those eyes to see and those ears to hear. And what are we hearing? What are we seeing? Well, it's the way that this consciousness, which is bigger than any of us can, I think, really understand, but we all participate in. It's the willingness to see the signs, to work with symbols. They come through in symbols, in pictures, in occurrences, in synchronistic events. And if we're willing to suspend our disbelief, when I teach this, which I do, I'll say, first of all, Hermes, thrice great, an ancient philosopher, said, as above, so below. Well, Jan Seward says, you can't make this stuff up. So if you're willing to accept that stuff happens and you just simply can't make it up, it's too synchronistic, then if you can consider the possibility that, oh my God, I'm living with, there's that book called Angels in My Hair. I'm living with consciousness over my shoulder, peeking in, right here, holding my hand all around me all the time. And it really is eventually like the fish who you say, how's the water? And they say, what water? We're in it. We're part of it. We're swimming in it. We're creating it, but we're co-creating it, and it's us, and it's bigger than us. And once, I just had the capacity to say, hey, bring it. And that's, again, I'm a bit of a quirky bird. I've always been willing to just kind of say, okay, suspend that, skepticism. And then that's incredible. So as Hope was saying, when first of all, I think many of us, if not most of us, when we're young, we have an experience of being in this co-creative consciousness. For me, that's when I was very young, and I would work with the weather, work with the wind. I was a bit of a weather shaman and didn't know it. I would talk to the trees across the street I was really bored when I was a teenager. And so I started doing these mental experiments with the wind. And I would sit on my porch, and like people do with clouds, but I was doing it with the wind and the trees, and it would respond to me. And I would be like, well, that's interesting. And then I just kind of disregarded it and poo-pooed it and whatever. And it wasn't until this real catastrophe that I started trying to reach out for answers or for connection or something deeper, some meaning in what seemed so pointless. And I started actually using tarot. But I had also been working at a place that had been an ashram, somebody that had a strong grounding in Asian philosophy. And I was introduced to the Chinese coin oracle. It's the Yijing, and it's the oldest, it's the oracle that's been in the oldest use, except for the Orisha bones, the African Orisha bones. They've been in use for about the same amount of time, at least 5,000 years. The origins go back even farther, 10,000 years. And I started, you know, as most people do, if you've experienced the Chinese coins, I started kind of having conversations. And then I started realizing that it was what I used to call a handshake with the universe. You kind of decide to talk to the coins and they can talk right back, and it could be pretty specific. No question, as my teacher would say, no question too small. You could ask anything. Should I take the bus or ride the train tomorrow? Or you could ask the biggest question of, why am I here? What's my purpose? And this incredible oracle could answer. And so I started doing that dance and studying that with a teacher. And I had always had an interest in astrology, but having studied psychology and talked to a very wise person, Barbara, you know this person, Dr. Sohn. This was somebody that we both knew who had started this healing ashram and health center on Long Island. I had asked him if he had ever studied astrology, and he said he felt he couldn't do it justice, it would take too long. And psychology had taken me long enough, and I was really concerned that I would not be able to study astrology. But then I started sending all my patients out for what I would call astrological MRIs, because they might be stuck in their work, that we were doing work together. We couldn't get past these certain blocks, and I would send them for astrology. We would find where it was right in the astrology. And then I realized the similarity of being able to look at patterns and symbolic thinking. And as Hope said, telling a story. And because I had come to astrology, see, I have a little different twist. I have a different take than most astrologers. And Hope, I know you and I are going to talk more about this. Most astrologers don't understand that astrology is a form of divination, that the chart comes to life. Much like, if any of you have read Harry Potter, or have had kids that have read Harry Potter, there's something called the Marauder's Map. And when you do a magic spell, the Marauder's Map comes to life, and you can see where everyone is in Hogwarts Castle, where they've been, where they are, where they're going. Astrology is like that map. It literally comes to life, or like players on a stage, you can see things in live time move through an astrological chart. And because I had come to it with this idea that, hey, yeah, I'll ask a question, the universe will answer. Why shouldn't I be able to do that with an astrology chart? Most astrologers don't have that understanding. It's an unconventional way to understand it. But as fortune would have it, there's literally one book written on it. And that book was written by a brilliant man who had come into astrology exactly the same way, through the tarot, through the I Ching. And then I started studying with him and have continued to study with him. And there's a small little tribe, Hope, and I call them my Hogwarts people. They're like these little wizards and witches over in England. And there are a few of us here in the United States. And we really do understand astrology as of the moment, in the moment, and a divinatory process. And so what that means is that, you know, divination is this beautiful conspiracy. One of my teachers calls it the benign conspiracy and the divine conspiracy, where a person with a question, with a true heart and pure intention, asks the universe for an answer. And you may be able to do that yourself and bring that in yourself, or you may choose, or at times need, an intermediary who is the diviner, who is the person who can read the symbols. And it's this beautiful collaboration between you coming in and the universe wanting to answer, and that third party who kind of makes the match. And it's in that moment that the astrology turns on. It's that gift. It's the abracadabra moment. The astrology comes to life, because you can have a chart that you formulate in the moment that gives all the precise information. And that's what Hope was saying. It's horary question astrology. And you might have wrong information. Adam, I've generated a multitude of times wrong charts, wrong dates, wrong times, and it's the exact chart in that moment that speaks to the question or the issue or that person. And that's, again, that's the synchronicity of the conscious universe that's benevolent. It wants to help us when we're seeking help.
So let me just clarify. First of all, it's called horary, which
Horary.
so just maybe spell that out.
Yes,
So that
it comes from the root time, horos, Horos, like horoscope. So horary is a birth chart for a question. So an easy way to call it is question astrology. So you can ask a question about anything. Will I get the job? Is it time to leave the job? What Lisa was saying. If there's a trial, how is this trial going to work out? Who stole my fish? That was a horary question someone asked in the 1500s when it was really important to know where your fish were. Have I lost this object? Where is this lost object? So there's question astrology, there's electional astrology. When's the best time to undertake something? When's the best time to send in that book proposal? Or when's the best time to apply for college? Those kinds of things. So when you generate a question in the moment, it's got its own birth chart, and that's horary.
and this has been down the rabbit hole opportunity. Sometimes Jen and I get into this, and it's just freaking amazing because we're doing the chart of the question, right? So if I ask the question 5 minutes later, the chart would be somewhat different. It's all in that moment that you ask, and that's when you get your lightning rod. This is here it is, and it's so darn accurate. It's just uncanny. And again, you see, like the Marauder's map, you see all the characters. I don't see them. Jan sees them. I don't know all the little. The planets all represent different people, mothers, fathers, lovers, et cetera. Jan understands all this. I don't, but I'm learning a little bit. But it's an incredible tool, and we're used to astrology. You get your yearly chart, or you're having a bumpy ride and you just want to see what's going on for the next 3 months or something like that. We're not used to using astrology in this way, and it's absolutely remarkable. And as Jen said, very few people really know how to do it. So
I want to interject because there's
let's talk about today too.
Sure. And so the way I would love for people to think about this is our destiny isn't fixed. Our destiny isn't fixed. What purpose would that be? And this was a huge philosophical debate all along. And this is a point that I make that blew me away. And I think it expands a lot of people's thoughts. And we're focusing right now on astrology, but really divination. Okay, so divination, the idea of being able to negotiate with destiny. What's the point? And this was a huge debate. We could have another whole talk about how the Catholic Church got involved and how very smart astrologers had to kind of word their arguments for astrology and free will versus fate. But the whole, at least where I come down on the side of fate and free will, is, again, it's that purposeful. Why put something over your mantle if there's not a purpose for it? So why have this brilliant ancient tool of astrology or the Chinese coins if it's not to improve your life? It's not simply to say, oh, this is all fated, just so you know what's coming, pack your bags and kill yourself. No, it's about negotiating with destiny. And there's a Greek word for that. It's katarche, and I can put that in the chat. It's Katarche. And it's the reason it's I want to say that it's Greek is because it's a very ancient concept that we see, here's the thing, and forgive me because I get so excited about this. In the moment that we ask the question, we are changing our fate because we have asked the question. It almost doesn't even matter what happens next. You see, it's that we said, I want to do something about this. I want to have some potential, some agency to go in a better path. And the universe says, that's okay. Now I'm going to help you do that. Now, you have a choice. Once you put those wheels in motion, you can act, you can choose not to act. The universe tends to like to say, I told you so. That's a hard thing for me as an astrologer. I don't ever say, I told you so. When people choose not to kind of take that guidance, okay, then other things happen and we learn from those. There are times when I'll say to somebody, before you ask, do you really want to know the answer? Are you sure you're ready for this answer? Because the universe can be a little bit demanding. If you've asked, it's going to tell you, and then you have to choose, are you going to follow that? And if not, then what? So there is some of that, but and this isn't, it isn't just divination. It happens when you ask and hope. I know the rods are divination, but even just, it happens in therapy. And this is really, there's a lot of metaphysics that go on in everyday therapy, because you're doing the same thing. You're saying, I believe there's something I can do that is going to bring more blessings, more benefits, more purposeful illumination, growth, evolution, conscious evolution, those kinds of things we strive for. And because we believe that, the universe wants to support that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's talk about the horary for today. So when we set this this date, it was a month ago or something, and I just looked for Wednesday. I mean, just picked a day that
Right.
gave her a couple options, and this was it. That's all I did. So, Jan,
okay. So just to kind of show you how we make the sausage, whenever anytime now, if I'm doing an astrological reading or there's an event, something like this, I'll always look at the chart for that moment. And that's most astrologers, probably more astrologers do than don't. They're going to look at a chart. Not only if you're going to have a reading, they'll look at your chart, but they may also look at the chart for the time of that reading to see if there are any themes that want to be discussed. Where I take it a little farther, again, just because, again, after I've been in depth psychoanalysis for 35 years and doing this work symbolically, you talk about that, 10,000 hours. I probably have 10,000 hours of this endless scrutiny. I'm just wired that way. I have a nimble mind. I do have to say my mind is very nimble. It's able to jump and say, oh, okay, so we have this chart, but now let's compare it to this other thing. Because, and when I teach, I show this beautiful slide of gears, wheels within wheels within wheels. It's all part of something bigger. It's all part of something bigger. All the gears are meshed, and then you see this unbelievable spooling of something. So if you're willing to be, I think what I can bring is that nimbleness, just because I've done it for so long, and I'm willing to, I trust it implicitly. So when I ask those questions, that's where it comes in. You can't make this stuff up. Okay, so I promise I'm not trying to make you astrologers, but you'll definitely be able to get this. Okay, so all you're seeing right now is a wheel, right? Everybody can see a wheel. And actually it's two wheels, one wheel inside the other wheel. So one of the things that okay, this is an astrological wheel, the outer wheel, these symbols are called glyphs. These are the signs of the zodiac on this outer wheel. We read the wheel counterclockwise. The inner wheel, those are the planets that we look at. Those are the symbols for all the planets and the chart points. And then this most inner wheel, 1 through 12, those are called the houses of the zodiac. Those are domains of the life where things happen. So, and if I gave you a key to any of, if they were real houses and I gave you a key to any one of those houses, different things would be going on there. So the inner wheel is the chart for this meeting tonight. So you could see over here, it says transits. Now what a transit is where the planets are currently in the heavens. That's where the planets are now. So I put in January 12th, 7:30 p.m. when we were starting this meeting, my location, Great Barrington. And this is the chart for that, for this moment. And what I want you to look at, because Hope and I had already decided we were going to talk about perseverance. And a big player for perseverance is the planet Saturn. We knew we were going to talk about Saturn. And we had also talked about trends and patterns for the year. And astrologically, the year really starts at the solstice. So when I first put the wheel in for tonight, that's this inner wheel. And I want you to look over here at the 7th house. And the 7th house is the house of relationship. It's us and others, 7th house of relationships. And over here, in right here, this glyph that looks like an H with a line through it, this is the planet Saturn. And right over here, next to Saturn, is this little circle with the little horns, like little crown on the top and a plus sign. That's Mercury. Now, this wheel's 360 degrees. The numbers that are next to these little planets, that's the degree that they sit in. Think of this as a dartboard. This is a cosmic dartboard. Okay, so over here for tonight, the planet Mercury, as we speak, is at 10 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. This is Aquarius, the waves, which of course is perfect. We're in the wave, the infinity wave. Here's the waves. Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury is the teacher. Mercury is the student. Mercury is how we get our ideas communicated. That's Mercury. It's at 10 degrees of Aquarius. Well, I also knew we were talking about this year and Saturn and the solstice. I said, let me throw up the solstice chart, not as a separate chart, but let me look at the solstice chart compared to tonight's chart. Is there anything, and I go in with the question, is there anything the universe wants us to pay attention to? And when we're asking that kind of question, we get real specific. We want to really say, no, universe, it's not enough to have, 3 degrees apart, 5 degrees apart. We want something super close. We want, as I say to Hope, we want to throw a dart and we want to hit another dart and put the dart inside the dart and maybe the dart inside the dart inside the dart. That's how close we want it to be. So notice at the solstice, here's Saturn at 10 degrees of Aquarius. So with a complete random choice of tonight, you can't make this up. Hope and I did not look at the charts first. And that's a real big difference. And I want to get back to that. We didn't look, we just trusted it will all be meaningful and purposeful as it's meant to be. Dart within a dart. The Saturn of the solstice is exactly, it's almost to the arc minute. This is hard to do. The planets are big, lined up with Mercury. So what that's in the 7th house of Aquarius, the visionary, the group. Aquarius is about community. Aquarius is about a vision for the community, the purposeful coming together to do good work in the community, in groups, in relationship, in the 7th house. Mercury wants to speak Saturn's mission. That's how I interpret this dart within the dart, that Mercury is a fast-moving planet. It moves faster than all the other planets, except the moon. And here's Mercury. It could be anywhere because it moves quickly, but it says, no, I'm sticking with Saturn. I want to tell you about Saturn. Tonight, we're talking about perseverance, but also, as I was saying to Hope, all of this is alchemical. Back in the day, astrologers were magicians and alchemists, and they would work with Saturn, lead, turning lead into gold. Now, that's heavy, literally heavy. Saturn has everything to do with heaviness, with restriction, with discipline, with limits, with teaching, with lessons learned, with polishing the stone, crushing the carbon till it makes a diamond. That's heavy. It can't do anything without Mercury. And this is what the alchemists knew. You need the lightening effect, the leavening. Mercury is the humorist, Mercury is the trickster. And here's Mercury saying, lighten up. Let's lighten up this heaviness to understand grace. That's grace. So here we are tonight doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And there's a demonstration. And if anybody has any questions about that, I'll be happy to share that screen again. But it's, trust me, it's magic. It's like the rabbit, always pulling that astrological rabbit out of the hat.
Just can't make it up. It's you know, there's Saturn wanting us to talk about perseverance and kind of the more sustaining aspects of Saturn.
Yes.
Not so much the dictatorial aspects of Saturn, but the hang
right.
in there, right?
Right. And that's the importance, you know, one, again, how astrologers work is we juxtapose a lot of different symbolic meanings. So Saturn had been in Capricorn. Saturn stays in a sign for 2.5 years. And until last year, it was in Capricorn for 2.5 years. That's a very authoritarian, authoritative, heavy systems, business, politics kind of an energy, Saturn and Capricorn. Saturn Aquarius, but every planet rules a sign, and what that means is it has authority in that sign. So Saturn rules Capricorn, and it will bring discipline, authority, structure, things we need. You can't build anything without Saturn. Saturn in Aquarius is Saturn in Capricorn. It's heavy. It's Earth. Capricorn's an Earth sign. Saturn in Aquarius is air. So it turns it into the idea, the vision, the inspiration, and it has dignity, has great dignity and great authority. So this idea of responsibility with authority, you can act on behalf of the community. You can do something. So, and that's a beautiful thing. When we look at sort of the dance of the planets currently, because there's a couple of things that are happening, I do want to say a lot of the really rough stuff is behind us. You know, we came through, and Pam Youngins had described it so beautifully when she talked about we were all climbing a mountain and we finally got to the top at the end of December. Now it's time to look around. It's time to integrate. It's time to say, okay, we kind of made it. We kind of did it. Now what do we do with it? How do we integrate this? How do we bring structure to these ideas? Now what also is happening? Now, the other thing, we're talking about perseverance, we're talking about Saturn, we're talking about grit. Saturn is grit, but also Saturn is incredibly transcendent because, again, symbolically, as above, so below. Saturn's the last planet you can see with your eye, where you don't need an aid to see it. And Saturn is, metaphysically, it's the planet you can stand on to see the rest of the galaxies, to see the rest of the universe. So when you can get to that metaphysical octave of Saturn, you're really standing at the gate. And Saturn talks about, by honing that, by working your karma, because Saturn is the planet of karma, by doing your lessons, by working your karma, by negotiating with destiny, you can now see beyond. You can get to those other dimensions of experience. You can leave 3D through that vehicle and come back. And we have some beautiful opportunities. The planets that are still either wreaking havoc, depending on how you look at it, they're either wreaking havoc or they're creating opportunities, is we've got Neptune in Pisces. It's been there for these many years, 12 years at least. Neptune in Pisces, it's the wateriest of water, the most transpersonal of transpersonal. It's that beautiful container for where all of the beautiful channeling hope that you're doing, the Ahmad, all of that can use that Neptunian thinness of the veil in Pisces, where it's exalted. Neptune was co-ruler of Pisces. So it's this thinning of the veil. It has been happening. It's kind of reaching its peak. And we've got Pluto still coming through Capricorn. So and Uranus in Taurus. So all the possibilities of expansion, of dissolution, of falling apart to come back together, that's what we need Saturn for. If we didn't have Saturn, I mean, it's hard enough that Neptune and Pluto and Uranus, they're all very happy with each other right now. They're not in conflict at all. They're in these relationships planetarily where there's a lot of harmony and flow. So these Titans, if they weren't checked by some structure of Saturn saying, hey, wait a minute, folks, what's all this about? It really would be total chaos. But we have Saturn, and we have Saturn in Aquarius, the vision for the people, the purpose, the community, the coming together, and working against duality. There are other ways to look at charts symbolically, and there's something called the Sabian symbols that I also use to really bring home the story. And a piece of what's embedded in the solstice chart is the potential for duality and the need to come out of duality. And again, you'll get these messages in every place you look. They all converge, they all come together. So whether if you're going to use someone as an oracle, and I've done it and seen it again and again, you can do a tarot reading and an astrology reading or an I Ching reading, or all the messages converge. And often they go right along with what your gut was telling you. However, they're very affirming. And the other difference is the cathartic function, where you can say, okay, this is happening. I sensed it. I knew it. But now what? What can I do about it? Is there something that I can do? And the universe can give you that answer.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. So Jan, I'd like to have a demonstration at some point. But before we do that, do you have a sense of the year? Is there something you could?
Well, what I want to talk about, as I said, I'm glad because I started to kind of go there. A lot of the heavy stuff, a lot of the big stuff, the big things we were all building up to, they've happened. 2021 was the big year. The bigger thing, and this relates much more personally, probably definitely to all of us. Hope you focused on this in your forgiveness practice. The really big thing that's happening is that Venus, and I know that Mary, you do your work with Venus, the divine feminine. Anyone out there that's working with the divine feminine, Venus has joined with Pluto. This is huge. This is huge for all of us because it is the opportunity to repair the divine feminine. And Venus is Ishtar. Venus is the goddess. Venus is all that we're capable of, coming from our intuition, our complete trust in the universe, the ability to yield as well as act, all of that. And Pluto is the ultimate breaking down of everything. It's the underworld. Archetypally, it is where Hades takes Persephone and the possibility to be alchemically changed through death and rebirth. And for Venus to be retrograding back into Pluto, voluntarily going to Pluto, and then passing it, and then going back. It's the crucible for all of us. In quite it's so personal. This is the thing. Venus is the most personal planet. It's the night star. It's the morning star. It's launched 1,000 ships. It is everything. Venus is everything. And Pluto is that alchemy of transformation. So the fact that this is happening it's hard to put it in words. You can see it's so deep.
Great job. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
It's a rare event. And it could not be more perfectly timed because, I mean, we all see the need. It's, and the thing is, you know, when we're working with the universe like this, when we're working with the planets, we actually can make headway. You know, so many times before we've tried these things, and yes, you know, they've put drops in the ocean, you know, they've done something. But when you have the alignments that support this kind of activity, then wow, you know,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And that's the pot. That's it, it's not just about our personal lives and how we personally impact our own destiny. It's how we get involved in the quantum. And we say, oh, okay, what's this? Venus and Pluto over the mantelpiece. What's it for? And if
Yeah.
we can ride that and say, okay, let's do this work. So this gets back to, for example, Hope's forgiveness practice, which many of us met a few weeks ago to do. I put the chart together, and I think I talked about it that night. The chart of that night, which was completely random, as far as we know. Hope just put it on the schedule, right? It happened to, it just fall in like they think they do. And I said, well, let's look at the chart for when the forgiveness practice came in. And the dart within the dart within the dart was the Pluto of this moment, and the sun, which is again the divine masculine, were conjunct to the degree, to the arc minute. That event, how many years ago, Hope? 2012?
2012.
So here, you know, here we are 9 years later, 10 years later almost. Two completely separate events, random event. One was channeled to the date, the next was here it is. You put them together, the dart hits the dart hits the dart. So we know that this is the moment, that the practice, see, this is the thing, doing that practice was already changing that relationship that is demonstrated, evidenced by Pluto and the sun, the two biggest titans in the sky. Okay, one little lady doing a forgiveness practice, plugging right in with the group, the waves and the ripples.
This is when you start to feel like a little pawn being moved around the chessboard, you know.
But again, Hope, wait a second, but it's more than that. We're not
I
pawns.
know, I'm just
No,
joking.
no. I just want to, yes, and I just want to, again, for your brilliance. This is another thing I'm very much adept at, which is illuminating other people's brilliance. That's my favorite thing to do. Hope, remember way back at the beginning, you talked about raising your hand.
Yeah.
We raise our hand and the universe goes, yay, shakes it, and then all this cool stuff can happen. So I know you said a demonstration. Lisa, how about, because you did something big today. So where are you, Lisa? Are you there?
Yes, here I am.
Okay, so you did something big. I don't know if everybody was on the call when you did that, when you announced that you did that big thing. Would it be okay to share that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so why don't you talk just briefly about what you did today?
So today I I resigned from a job that I've had all throughout the pandemic and about 8 months before that. So like a 2.5 year job that was just getting me down. It was a slog, and I got too tired to use any creativity. And then I found another job with some people who really love my creativity in a totally different way. And that got finalized to have that in the past couple days to have that job. So I wrote my resignation letter and I waited until my favorite one of the supervisors was working this morning. And I just
What
texted.
time did you pull the trigger on that event? What time did you make that text? When did you resign? What time? You know, there's a
Let's
joke.
see.
How do you, when a catastrophe happens, how do you know who the astrologers are? We're the ones checking our watches. So
While you're doing that, I'm going to add a little piece.
go ahead.
That it isn't just leaving this job. It is It is leaving this job, which is going to create more time for Lisa to pursue actually going into practice as the healer that she has been training to be for years and years
Lovely.
and years. So this
Yay.
is actually a huge step.
Huge. Okay, so what time did you send that text?
I sent the email or the text at 9:45.
And where do you live?
Salem, Massachusetts.
Okay, and Lisa, what's your birthday?
January 15th.
Capricorn, babe, lots of things happening in your life. Because Pluto, how do I know that? Because Pluto's been transiting in Capricorn. So anyone who's a Capricorn or Capricorn rising or Capricorn moon has been having very transformational experiences. 115, and what year of your birth?
67.
And where were you born?
At Nashua, New Hampshire.
And do you happen to know the exact time?
Yep, let me think. 7:02 p.m.
Beautiful. Okay, talk amongst yourselves. I'm just going to put this in a chart very quickly.
Well, I'm just
And
going
if
to
there are any
check.
questions, whatever you want to do, Hope,
Yeah.
and I'll just quickly make the charts.
Okay, I'm quickly going to look at the questions here or the chat to make sure I didn't. Yes, Bridget, the numerology is very interesting in the first 2 months of this year, especially. So we're 1122022 today. Very interesting.
Yes, I noticed that. Okay, so Lisa, I know you did consult astrology before you did this, and I know that you didn't do a whole lot of machinations. You just acted and went with what your heart was telling you, right? And take a look. We look at the dart in the dart. We've got a pretty close dart here. Inner wheel is Lisa. This is Lisa's birth chart. Lisa, as we said, is a Capricorn. This circle with the dot in it, talk about a dart and a dart. The circle with the dot, that's the sun. That's the glyph for the sun. Lisa was born with her sun at 25 degrees of Capricorn. Not for nothing, there's Mercury right at 23 degrees of Capricorn. Well, as we speak, Pluto, that powerful transformer, also Pluto is the planet. Oh, okay, so let me just back up for a minute. The sun is our vitality. It's how we shine. For you, Lisa, it's in the 6th house of the healer. Your identity is that of a healer. Pluto is the ultimate healing energy. And look where Mr. Pluto is. He's right on your sun. 26 degrees of Pluto of Capricorn, and your sun is at 25. It's like saying hello. And today the sun is right on your Mercury. And Mercury is the planet of medicine. It's the healer. So the sun is saying, time, it's time, girl, it's time. And also look, the little communicator, I'm going to send my message, the messenger, 10 degrees, sitting right on Venus. And that's your favorite. You said my favorite. This is where I start to use the chart symbolically. This is where I begin. Hope, you're so smart that we're doing this demonstration, because the story only exists in this moment. This birth chart, Lisa got born with it in 1967. That's this inner wheel. Today, how many years later, Lisa did something. She sent a text, but she said, I waited until my favorite manager was there. Now, who represents the favorite manager? Someone in the 7th house, our bosses, our relationships, everyone who's not us that we're in relationship with. Venus, my favorite, the person I love, who is an inspiration to me, who has mentored me. I can tell who this boss is from Lisa's birth chart. But she didn't get this job until she's an adult, but it's in the birth chart. In this moment that we're asking the question, this is where the map comes to life. Here's the boss, Mercury. I'm going to send my message. Boom, she presses that, and bingo. And I end up looking like a genius. That's why I love to do this work.
And
Mic
you know
drop.
what else?
Boom. Thank
Yeah,
you, Lisa. What a beautiful, and brava. Let's all clap for
yes.
Lisa that she pushed that button knowing how aligned. Because when you can see this, and look, what else? We got a ton of things. I can't go on. We don't have enough time. But point is, when you see this, maybe once, or maybe you need to see it a few times or a few thousand times. I've seen it thousands of times, as I know Hope has seen it through her divination with the rods thousands of times. Whether it's once or 1,000 times, what more do you need to know that you're in divine alignment? And if you can say, I pushed that button just at that moment without any guidance except my own GPS, then you can feel a whole lot better about what you're doing, right? High five. High
Oh,
five, sister.
absolutely.
Boom.
Absolutely.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's the work.
And Jan, that is so brilliant. But I wanted to also say that having Mercury right next to, was it Pluto or her son?
Her son, natally.
Because Lisa is also a linguist.
Oh, there it is.
There it is, right?
Yeah.
But what's
And
happening
yeah.
is it's transmuting away from that and into her healing
Yeah.
work.
And coming with it. And that's the thing, the beauty of a symbol, just like a painting, a poem, a painting, a piece of music, multiple levels of meaning, a dream, multiple levels of meaning. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You can mine that gift as it opens up, as the conversation, as you bring your creativity and your willingness, it gives and gives and gives and gives, and you will find it complex and beautiful on every level. It's poetry. It's called mythopoesis. It's poetry in the moment.
And it is that I love that English term gobsmacked, because that's how I feel when the penny drops and you see, oh, there's the boss and there's me and there's, boing. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Thank you for that. That was just fantastic. I think really
beautiful, Lisa.
And there, as you said, there's
it.
more that you would uncover in the chart, but just to demonstrate that one piece. So let's just talk about, people want to come to you. They can come for a variety of things.
Yes. And so first of all, the special offer is you can book a session with me for astrology. It says astrology and I Ching, and use a code WAVE. And my regular fee will show up for you as $88. It'll be $88 for that reading. So I would love, and you could, we could look at anything. Certainly it helps to look at our birth charts, because again, the rightness of it, just kind of seeing that, like I say, it's like a glove on your hand or a bespoke suit. Again, being able to, light the match and go, when you see the fire, that's the beauty of looking at a birth chart. But also wanting to kind of know what time it is for you at this time through the chart is a beautiful thing. So yes, I'm happy to work with any and all of you on that beautiful magical possibility. And oracles are best, I think, when you do ask the question, what time is it? What time is it for me now? And then we see cycles and circles within circles and cycles, and that's it, unspools from there.
So Bridget is asking, so birth charts don't lie? She's kind of chuckling over that.
That's a great question. That's yes. And if a birth chart, if you have a reading, if you come away from a reading and you don't feel it fits, it's because there's an inaccurate birth time. When the closer to when your exact time of birth, because that's how we know where to start the wheel. And an astrologer can help you find that. If you don't know it, you can do chart work to find a good birth time. If it doesn't fit like a glove, or what I say, a bespoke suit, it's the wrong birth time. If you can't find your birth time, I can help you narrow in and then find it. So don't, if you've already looked and you've gone to your state archives and ask them for a long form birth certificate, that's often where the time will be. Even if you have a short form without the time, the state might keep it, but they may not, or people are adopted, an astrologer can still work with you and help you to find it.
And sometimes we can douse for it as well.
And you could douse for it. And that's a nice marriage of the dowsing and then fitting it with the chart and seeing how that works. Yeah, that's fun.
I have a question on birth charts. As many of you know, I have twins. who were born about 20 minutes apart.
Mm.
When you look, I mean, based on 20 minutes of difference, how different will the chart be? Will it be just boom, totally different, or?
Might be. It might be. I'll explain very quickly. One of the most important points, if not the most important point on a chart, is your birth moment. And so that's linked to whatever constellation was on the horizon when you were born. That constellation moves a tick, 1 degree every 4 minutes. So within 2 hours, it's a whole other rising sign. And the rising sign, as I said, if I gave you a key, if these were real houses and I gave you a key to this first house, which is where we start the wheel with your rising sign, that would be a mirror or a self-portrait, because it is really about our identity. That's the first house. It is huge with meaning. Twins, 20 minutes apart, can have completely different rising signs. If they're born close to where that rising sign starts, within 4 minutes, they could have a different rising sign. So that's one point. But even if twins are born a minute apart, 2 minutes apart, same rising sign, all these, as I said, all these symbols have multiple and complex meanings. So although twins do have very similar lives, these areas and points of difference can be that they're expressing different aspects and quadrants of their chart. So that can explain, how they may be different.
Plus the moon too. The moon moves quickly.
The
doesn't
moon
it?
moves not that quickly. The moon,
What is
the
it that
moon,
moves quickly?
well, the rising sign moves the fastest.
Okay.
The moon does move. The quickest of everything is the moon, but it still moves only about 13 degrees in a day. So
Okay.
now you could have a twin that was born just as that moon was changing signs. They could hypothetically have different moons. So that would change everything. So not for nothing, folks, in one birth chart, in your birth chart, we can see your kids, your spouse, your job, your soul path, your parents, their parents, your in-laws. You can see it all in your birth chart. Just saying. That was a great question, Lisa. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Bridget.
I'm thinking about the 3 wise men when the Christ was born and how much they were paying attention to that date. What do you have to say about that, Jen?
Well, that's very symbolic. So a lot of people say that the 3 wise men, well, you talked about that, the oil 3 wise men, right? That it represents in some ways consciousness. But what we know about those dates is that there was a convergence. It was the grand convergence of Saturn and Jupiter in that brightness in the sky. So that star that they were following, they were astrologers. Everybody at the time was an astrologer. I don't think I sufficiently made this point, but astronomy grew out of astrology. Philosophy grew out of astrology. Astrology was happening, and then to try to explain it, all of these methods of inquiry developed. So these 3 astrologers knew that there was going to be a grand convergence of Jupiter and Saturn. And because they were already looking, there were already other signs that said something momentous was going to happen. A new, and back in those days, that's mostly what they were looking at. They were also doing horoscopes, but they were looking at the rise of kings, etc. They felt that would be a portentous event.
Interesting.
Mhm.
They don't ever tell you that they were astrologers.
No, that gets left out of everything. Anyone you can mention up until and through the Renaissance were astrologers. Anyone you mention that you would happen to know were astrologers. And they were astrologers first and foremost.
Wow.
And everything else came out of their astrology. And they were all making magic. They were making talismans. They were trying to get lovers. They were trying to defeat other lovers. They were doing all kinds of stuff that mostly didn't get talked about, but they were doing some interesting stuff.
Fascinating. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Fiona.
Jen, did I hear you say earlier something about Pluto conjunct the Sun having something to do with forgiveness?
Yes, so brilliant. What a brilliant question. Such a brilliant group. Yes, because again, the sun unchecked is power and it's toxic masculinity. Pluto can transform anything. And the way through, the only way through, and this was what was channeled in Hope's brilliant practice and what she had gone through, which was very much a replay of toxic masculinity through the ages. The only way to heal that is forgiveness. And you need the strength of Pluto. Pluto is like, again, it's the great destroyer, it's nuclear energy, it's fusion, it's splitting the atom, it's that level, and it's deep healing. That's the potential. It's also the richness of the dark underworld to bring healing, to bring anything toxic to light and transform it. Yes, that's that beautiful symbolic showing.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Mine are
It's-
conjunct in my chart, so I was just particularly
Look
interested.
at you, Fiona. What a powerful mage you are. That's a lot of power. You know, just to say, you know, due respect to you, my dear, because that's a comet that either you ride or it rides you. So I'm sure you've really embraced and evolved, and much admiration for you for that. And it's not, you know, if you say we've picked our charts, you know, sometimes we say, look, I planned this in this life, I wanted this experience, or I accepted this role. It's not easy.
No.
And sometimes I say I was on the line for the bathroom when they handed out birth charts. So, you know, a few things got a little wonky. Or sometimes I say, you know, it was that one unhappy fairy godmother that was at the party who said, wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? This has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I want to add that we truly are stardust. And I feel such joy in your presence, all of you. I want to thank you all because you illuminate me and us. It's a beautiful thing.
I hope this has been illuminating for everyone. It's just been so fun to be together and starting the year out right? We're all going to be putting on our perseverant pants and and our Venus,
Yes.
you know, like a canoe. Well, I always say this group is kind of like a raft. And the raft gets bigger and bigger, you know, more and more people are coming and we're just riding. But the wonderful thing about a raft is it's very open. So we can really work with our Venus beneath us and above us and welcoming more and more onto this lovely ride that we're on.
Beautiful.
So thank you everybody for coming, and thank you, Jan. And we'll see what's up for next month when we get there.
Exactly.
One thing at a time. All right, my dears. Much love.
Bye,
Mwah.
everybody.
Thank you.